I'm fed up with politics, I don't vote for any party and it bores me to tears. And secondly, I base my words on logic and common sense. Yes, Irene Montero, MEP and former Spanish Minister of Equality, made a video about me. Ricky Edith says she's the one who says these things. About March 8th, I think it's nonsense. And then there's Pedro Sanchez. Yes, I mentioned the name of the Prime Minister in Spain gave its opinion. He's the one appealing to politics. No, Ricky, he's not appealing to politics. You and your people do politics every day. Yes, if I did politics, you'd be getting paid. For giving workshops on how to dye your armpits purple. To begin with, when you decide to go to Andorra to avoid paying taxes. You're 40 years old and you still haven't understood that those of us who come to work in Andorra aren't evading taxes. We're paying taxes in the country where we reside. If we were evading taxes, it would be a crime. So in Spain, we would be prosecuted and even convicted. Although, well, your laws benefited hundreds of rapists and abusers of women. If you have any laws regarding tax evasion, I might consider returning. And now, seriously, I left Spain to stop paying the salaries of parasites like you who do nothing and take everyone's money. If you at least continued working as a cashier or did something useful, it wouldn't bother me so much that you took half my money. But doing the stupid things you do and saying the idiotic things you say, it's not an option to continue when you call March 8th and feminism a load of nonsense. Maybe I would see it differently if March 8th weren't based on, in giving absolute freedom and power to these crazy women to destroy street furniture, block streets, make noise, and demand laws they had for decades, laws which, if you check the official state gazette, you'll see are over 500 times more than men's. Not to mention the shameful image every year on March 9th, when real working women have to clean up and pick up all the mess. The truth is, their superfighter teammate made the day before. You're playing politics when you point out Rivers for dancing or dressing however she wants. Or when you question her qualifications or why she's where she is. I've never criticized Rivers' dancing or clothing. In fact, I've congratulated her on her results. What I have pointed out is the hypocrisy of her spending all day crying that people only follow her for her cleavage and her ass. But the content she posts most for her audience are videos where she's seen with a lot of cleavage or shaking her ass. You're doing politics when you go on stage to collect an award and call the president of the government a son of a bitch. That's a lie, okay? In that part of the speech, I encourage people to give their opinions. And seeing how Spain is, I could already imagine the kind of opinions they would have. But I've never called the president a son of a bitch. Just as I've never called you an idiot. But if I asked people to comment on what they think about you, I could imagine what they would write. When you talk about migrants as if they were trash, that's also a lie. It would be absurd to criticize it because I'm also a migrant. The difference between the type of migration I've done and the one I criticize is that mine is legal. I migrated to work and contribute to the country where I now live. Not to take advantage of public services and worsen the lives of the people native to the country I went to. You have plenty of videos of me where I say that I'm in favor of legal and proper immigration. What I am against is crime. But I understand that it suits you. After all, the motto you're best known for is, if there's no crime in Morocco. Crime. Of course you're doing politics. You're doing politics in a very specific direction. Yes, common sense. This common sense thing is fine because you don't apply common sense. You say the same thing that they say, trap, Baskel, my law, if we go back to history. It's quite likely that part of your speech was said or at least thought by Hitler. But I'm not going to call you for that. Nazi, that's what you're already here for. Not calling anyone a Nazi who doesn't think the way you'd like everyone else to think. You're doing politics. Doing politics isn't just voting. It's above all taking sides, and not taking sides is always a way of siding with the strongest. You say that not having an opinion is opining like the strongest, which is nonsense and rubbish. But don't worry, I won't act surprised. In turn, you call everything you don't like the strongest, whether you consider them stronger than you and your school of thought. You haven't missed it. When you say neither feminism nor machismo, you're saying impunity for machistas. I've never said either machismo or feminism, simply because the basic definition of feminism is the pursuit of equality between men and women. Although I have to admit that today I do think that phrase makes sense. Because modern feminism has made it quite clear that it seeks the superiority of women far above men. And make no mistake, Irene, impunity for machistas is proposing and passing laws that reduce the sentences of the sons of bitches who attack women. Not what I do. You're saying that you're neither with the women who want to stop being attacked nor with the men who attack. Saying that I'm against the victims when there are countless cases in which I've offered my own YouTube channel, my tool, the Municipal Labor Office, so that victims can use the megaphone to report what has happened to them, and for me to expose it publicly is shameless. But more importantly, it's a crime. So, you should warn your lawyer because, thanks to a 40-something woman with a teenage air about her who wants to act cool on social media, the year is going to start off pretty heated. This only benefits the oppressive side, and that's what some people like you do all the time. You act like you, re-wise, like outsiders. But what you do with your ideology that claims to have no ideology is always the same. Here you've made two things clear. The first is that you don't know how to speak English, and the second is that you don't respect or tolerate anyone who doesn't think exactly the same way. As you say, not having an ideology is always the same. Bad, something you don't like. But not having an ideology can also mean not wanting to give your opinion. Not wanting to express your point of view. Even so, anyone who doesn't think like you is already considered a fascist, a Nazi, a misogynist, an idiot. Defending the strongest doesn't fly anymore. Here you repeat and clarify that the strongest is anyone who thinks differently than you, which implies that everything you fought for in or defending has much less value than the opposite. You end your video saying it doesn't fly anymore, but look how well it has worked. I have a current one. A member of the European Parliament dedicating TikToks to me. You're a supermarket cashier who, if she ever had power or relevance, it was by cozying up to the politician of the moment. It doesn't matter how high you feel or how far you think you've come. As long as you remember your beginnings, you'll know you're still there. Thanks to a man. How ironic, isn't it? Patriarchy gave you wings, and quite a few at that. But you, through your foolishness and bad decisions, decided to clip them yourself. Irene, this short video will have a longer reach than your entire political career and better results than your time in power in Spain. My work serves to motivate and educate young people, clear up doubts, and ensure that anyone who listens to me feels neither ashamed nor afraid to express their point of view. Yours, in these years, has only succeeded in making people see feminism as a joke and in making women more uneasy on the streets of Spain. Not to mention that the funds I use to develop my work come solely and exclusively from my efforts and yours. They come from the money of Spaniards who don't even have the opportunity to decide if they want to contribute to your bullshit fight. Irene, you may have whatever ideals and principles you want, but you live in a luxury villa. You send your children to a private school, and the situation of women in Spain hasn't improved even with 20 billion euros of public money in your hands. Look, I don't have your education, I'm not married to a relevant politician. But I think even a nobody like me could do your job better. Take a walk and wake up, you desperately need it.